Mollusca, he paired well with red wine. You would pair well with late nights.
So next question we have, Christina, we'll start with you. So this is a question looking post-pandemic. Just put aside everything that's happening right now in the world.
Okay, that's easy.
Put it behind you. Just put it behind you. Just for the time.
Forget that there's only 5 people at this table right
exactly,
now.
Exactly. Yeah. So just for the time being, in what ways would you go about trying to garner more participation to local events in the city of Vancouver?
Imagining that there is no pandemic anymore,
Yes.
that we can go into venues. I have been imagining a future where we spend an equal amount of time or more listening to the people that we want to engage than deciding what we would like to produce. I think that this is a very important dance for us to start learning how to incorporate into our daily lives. And what I mean is my observations of Vancouver are that, and I suppose of BC, are that we're an experiential loving territory. People love experiences, and we are entertainers. And our job is to provide those experiences. It is not my job to tell someone what I think an experience should be. It's my job to listen, and it's my job to look at an audience member and say, what is it that brings you joy and inspiration? And how can I best bring that to you that elevates all of your senses? Because when I can elevate all of your senses, you'll remember it, and you'll remember my art. But if I spend more time trying to use my art as a catharsis, which there's nothing wrong with, but if I spend too much time focusing on my own development, I'm not listening, and we're not then having a dance, and we're not creating a product that someone is going to benefit greatly from. And that really is what we need to be doing right now, more than anything else. There is so much mental health suffering, there is so much isolation, and I know that you said to not think about those things. But we need to look at what's happening to the economy, and we need to provide a solution that allows someone a brief moment of sonic respite as musicians. That's our job, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, bro, that's on the artist, man. That ain't on nobody apart from the artist. If you're not dropping good shit, if you're not putting out good content, no one's coming to your show. Why am I going to want to come to your show and pay $15, $20, whatever price you're putting on your ticket to come to your show if you're not good at the end of the day? You know what I'm saying? That's it. You got to put out good content, and then that's on you and your team around you to do the marketing and all that. That's going to make someone want to pay their money, pay their hard-earned money, or pay their parents' money on a ticket to come to your show. Because they're like you're saying, man, international stars before the pandemic, they were coming every week, every month or whatever, and their shows are sold out. So there's no reason why an artist from here or around here shouldn't be able to get a couple hundred people at a show. You know what I'm saying? But it's all on them. They have to put out the good content and then the good rollouts, and then people got to come to your show.
I think it's just going to be identifying, how to add value, how to create experiences that make people want to go, or specifically from a musical standpoint is making music that's really good and making content that's really good, where people feel like they want to support it, where people feel like it represents them and the city and the communities that they're in, enough to want to come and support it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I have like a clear answer on that, but what I'm noticing and just, what's working for the people that I work with is, they're having to find new ways to adapt and to engage online. So I'm seeing a lot more live streams. I'm seeing a lot more, interaction online. So, I think we are lucky that, this is happening in a day and age where people still have a direct line to their fans. Is it sustainable? And, missing a giant portion of, people's revenue streams, which is live shows and the merch at those live shows. I'm not sure. And I'm not sure what the answer is, but I will say that we have been lucky to have those tools and those avenues to use in the meantime.
I have more of a label perspective when it comes to this question. I think it's really important to remember that the average listener is not a super fan, and is not that diehard fan that's going to come for the music. Nowadays, when you're promoting music, one of the things you think about is not only how great the music is and how you can angle that, but what that artist's brand is all about. What is it that the fans can also connect with the artist on? And that kind of translates into just events in general. Like, people are not going there just for the music anymore. They're going there for that connection and that whole experience that comes with putting on a show, down from the lighting to product placement, everything. I think it's really important that when you are an organizer working with these artists, that you, like Christina said, you put in the research of what these fans look like. What is it that the artist stands for? If you're trying to showcase the music, what is it that the artist stands for that you can incorporate within the event that will make it memorable for that fan to come and entice them to come? And that's also how you're going to get new fans, is like, they might not be a fan of the artist, but if you're promoting like activations within this event that they will be curious to check out, then they will. So I think that's really important to keep in mind.
I honestly think that post-pandemic, we won't need to do as much because people have been in the house for the whole year, right? Like, I look at it as a V-shape, our industry, or my industry at least, specifically as a DJ. It's like, pandemic hit, we're on straight decline. But once things are opening up and people feel safe again, I think it's just gonna shoot through the roof. You know what I mean? Like, how many of us are just itching to hang out with some friends and have a drink, right? Yeah, that's just my opinion. I think it's just gonna shoot right up after the pandemic.
Yeah, I have to echo the same thing, because people have been needing to connect again. People want to go out. People just want to dance. People are willing to wait in line at a store just to be around people, right? So the best way to get patrons to get back into the scene, I think, is just reminding them that what we went through, and it's all about like the recovery, the bounce back, and just like promoting good like work. I think at the end of the day, regardless if you're a DJ, if you're an artist, if you're a visual artist, or whatever you're doing, the whole point is like they've had the year to chill, we've had the year to kind of create and stock up. So I think it's like the best time.
Again, that's something that needs to happen naturally. Like, you can't force something down people's throat. But I think what we're seeing is a lot of people, especially the younger generation, are getting more involved, and people are starting to engage more. Like, the idea of the fact that Vancouver doesn't have like dope events, creative events, that's a lie. It's not true. Like, there's so many different kind of events in all like aspects of like everything, you know what I'm saying? It's there, and people can just go out and support and attend, meet other people, network, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you're talking like specifically about like local artists, I think the talent is getting a lot bigger. Like, there's a lot of big artists that are coming from Vancouver that are getting legitimate traction, not only in our city, but around the world. And you know what I'm saying? And like, obviously the situation sucks and it's negative, but there's a lot of positives that are coming out of it. I think a lot of these artists are starting to take a step back and focus on the music, the quality of the music, writing, being in the studio, et cetera, et cetera. So when shows do come back on after COVID, they're gonna be a lot better. They're gonna level up. There's a lot more content, music to come out, and people are just gonna be excited. And I think, like, I can name you a bunch right now if you want, but I think everybody here knows that there's a lot of talent in our city, and I think a lot of people are excited to go see these people, like, naturally. Like, they're generally excited to go see these artists perform. Whereas there might have been a time where it was kind of like forcing, people to come through. I think things are more genuine and natural nowadays. There's a lot of talent here, and people are trying to engage with the music scene. So that's just going to take off for sure.
My opinion is find what else they're interested in and incorporate that into your show. If you want to, and understand, again, economically, socially, what's really important. So if you want to engage families, make it an all ages show that capitalizes, that gives every single person crayons. Find ways to, if it's a sports show, if it's a show that is in an area that's a really big hockey town, find ways to incorporate hockey trivia, Find the other thing, because traditionally music has always been used to sell something else. So understand that we're not always in and of ourselves, because that would be ignorant for us to think that there are some people who are hardcore fans who love music for the sake of loving music, but they are not the vast majority by any means. So it's our responsibility as artists to find out what else they love. And if they love crafting, then have a craft event where an amazing musician is playing behind them making their craft. Find other ways to engage that don't include your music, and you'll find a better cross-section of people, is my opinion.
My only fear of that is that the artists, not that they would, but they can become the background music at these events, which tends to be an issue at times. Because there was a show with an artist we worked with previously, and there was a new opening for a venue, and it was a sit-down venue. So as people were having their dinner, they're just doing a live show while that's happening, and there was no engagement / crossover.
Do you think one person went, oh, I wonder who that is? Do you think they got one follower?
100%, yes.
Okay, then how much do you want to build your following?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you take the example of a production, if it wasn't a local event, and we had another artist who was, let's say, like an international larger artist doing that same event, it'd be a very different vibe in there.
Of course it would.
Yeah.
But I'm not J-Lo, and I'm sitting here.
Yeah.
So you do what you can with what you currently have. And if you have, coming from London, performing at all of those venues and working my way up to the Troubadour and working my way up to Ronnie Scott's, you do what you have to do, and you play to the one person in the room. And I would love to hear what you think about that.
Yeah, no, I was just going to touch on that. Like, going back to experience, I think any good artist wouldn't mind being background. They like, they want to make sure that everyone there experiences something great, and they don't need to be underneath the spotlight. If, like you said, people are just sitting around doing crafts and stuff, and you're there playing a song. Like, it's also
the host's responsibility. I use that example because I put on an event exactly like that. It's the host's responsibility to highlight that artist as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think that's a really, management of expectations is huge, because I will play the wallpaper gig, no problem, if I know it's a wallpaper gig.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
It's tough when you go, oh, this is a really great,
there's going to be thousands of people.
There's thousands of people who don't give a flying rat's ass about who's standing in front of them. Yeah. But those are and also there's something to be said, and I'm sure you would agree, with earning your chops. My music is very, very folk-centric. I have to earn that pin being heard when it drops. Yeah. I have to earn that. Yeah. And often I have to earn that in a pub setting.
Yeah.
As someone who's been producing shows, like mostly featuring 100% local lineups for the last few years, like there's a demand for it. Like people show up to these shows, and I've been doing these shows for years. And it's just about finding the right scale and the right scope for the shows. But I feel like people are genuinely down to support their homies, to support local artists, because at the end of the day, it's about it's about community connection, and it's about the kind of relationships that you can form at these shows and types of people that you can meet at these shows. So it's about building community. And, I feel like maybe within this capitalistic model, with the entertainment business or the nightlife industry, you want to pack every single night, but that's not a sustainable model, because as someone who's a DIY producer who works outside of that model, is you have to do shows not as frequently, but every time you do shows, people show up and people support and people want to ask you when the next show is going to happen. So I think, part of it is also now that we have time away from producing shows and participating in this like hyper capitalism, like music industry. This gives us an opportunity to question the model that is currently out there, and maybe we should be doing things differently. Maybe this like weekend warrior nightlife model is not sustainable culturally for us, and we need to be able to create different kinds of contexts for us to share music.
I really like that idea, and I want to take it a step further in also asking like the bigger like conglomerates, like the corporations, to actually reach out to some of the smaller groups that are putting on events, and maybe like get a feedback list of like what would you like to do, and start like, while we have time to do this, start like figuring out how it would look to gather and curate an event that what after the vaccinations are released, so that people can actually come together and learn about all these different pockets of like networks that are happening around the city. And we can definitely have a better look at what the culture looks like in the city. If we're not looking at the same people, because that's the other piece. Even though we're going to talk about that in another question, I just wanted to say that the structure is kind of broken, because people in the community in Vancouver are always looking at the same people all the time, just to do the same events, basically. That's why I feel like a lot of people are saying that the culture is not in Vancouver, because the people at the top are always looking at the same people all the time. So I'll leave that there.
Kind of tying back to the first question, creating more of a community where local shows are prioritized a bit more. Because I feel like, all these international shows and US artists do so well here. So there's obviously music fans, and we have the numbers, but there's almost like, seems like there's sometimes a stigma with like local shows. And I think like as a community, we can start to change that. Like I've had, for example, like I've had a lot of friends who go to like those So Far Sound shows, and they always kind of tell me, and those are the shows where it's all local acts, but you don't know who's performing until you get there. And they always tell me every time, like I can't believe how much local talent is in Vancouver. And it's like, it's always interesting that they're always like surprised, and like they had no idea before. So, and it shouldn't be like a global company like So Far is like your way of finding out about local talent. So I think it's like also just like awareness. You kind of just like, we kind of like band together and kind of give a stronger sense of community, and like join forces locally and make local shows almost like a bigger priority, and more sensibility for audiences to want to support local shows too.
Mm-hmm. Just to add on that point, that's how Breakout Festival actually started. Breakout Festival, before it was a festival, was just called Breakout. And every month for 7 months in a row, I'd put on a show in a different venue, and it'd be 6 or 7 local artists, and they'd all get paid. That's why I started it, because some artists would tell me they were opening for shows and they weren't getting paid. And I was just working out the numbers, and I was like, nah, there's no way that you should have got paid $50 or not even paid at all. So I started Breakout for that reason. It was just local artists, 6, 7 artists, every single bill for 7 months in a row. And we had hundreds of people out there, not even to brag, but we had hundreds. Like maybe 1 or 2 shows, we had less than 200 people. But there was one show we had, one of the last ones before I met my partners at Timber Concerts to turn it into a festival. One show we had on Granville Island that wasn't even a performance venue. It's like a mini opera venue. And I just lied to the people and told them it was going to be like just a little show. I was just telling them it was going to be a little show. And the thing is, I wasn't even selling online tickets back then. I was just doing like cash at the door. So even me, I didn't really know how much the fan bases of the artists had or whatever. So I wasn't really sure like how many people were going to show up or whatever. I just thought, even if I break even, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm getting my brand out there, which is Crescendo One and Breakout. I'm putting on for the local artists. Then we had this one show. This space is for about 250 people. And we had like maybe 500 plus. No, definitely 500 plus. We had like nearly 600 people. There was people in the line that didn't get in the whole night. We was doing like 1 in, 1 out. And they didn't get in the whole night. They were lined up around the block of this building. And I was just like, it's crazy to me that local artists can bring out this sort of crowd, you know what I'm saying? Because I never saw that before in this city. I never saw local artists bringing out crowds like that, and it was all kids just there trying to have a good time. There was no like trouble, no fights or anything. And then yeah, I met my partners at Timber Concerts and we started Breakout Festival. And that's why with Breakout Festival, half the lineup is, or nearly half the lineup is Vancouver artists, because that's how we started, you know what I'm saying? So there's some people that I even get messages from now. There's some people that I still talk to and they're like, oh, I remember when, like, there's people that came to the very, very first Breakout, March 2017. And they were like, whoa, like, I remember seeing whoever it was, 200, Down CP, whoever, Illy, performing. Even Manila Grey was on the very, very first Breakout. Like, someone said to me they remember seeing them then and then seeing them at the festival. And it's just like, you're seeing the progression of artists in real time, you know what I'm saying? You're seeing that's the community, like you're seeing, and other artists are seeing that as well. So now it's, okay, now I've got to do better as an artist so I can get to that level as an artist. And I think before that wasn't happening in the city. No artists was, when I first moved in, I was talking to artists in the city, no artist was really telling me, oh, I'm trying to be like that guy from here who made it and done this or blah, blah, blah. Or even not made it, just be like that guy who's putting out good content or whatever. I wasn't really hearing that even just like 3, 4, 5 years ago, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like all of that's starting to change now with like what Shane is saying, like putting on and making sure that there's a thing from the bigger companies to have a importance on the local artists, because that's a big thing, because the companies out here, the promotional companies, the venues, and all of those people that are in positions of power and positions to actually do things need to put an importance on the local art.
You also bring up a good point, like what you do with Breakout Festival and like half the town still being local. I think that adds a huge value too when fans start to see all the local talent like next to these bigger artists. Like when you combine Illy and Ski Mask on the same lineup, then all of a sudden the local artists, like their rep kind of moves up as well. So I think that's what we definitely need, more kind of like breakouts in the city for like different genres as well to really help that.
Oh yeah, when it starts happening with different genres, then it's game over. I feel like the EDM genre been doing it out here. EDM has been doing it out here. But like, like hip hop and R&B, that's what's popular right now. That is pop. That's mainstream right now. So it's like we need to be doing it in more in those genres.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I was gonna unpack that a bit further and say it's funny because we're talking about the same timelines here, right? Opposition started 6 years ago. Breakout's been at it for 4 or 5 years, like officially. We started 4 years ago. Like pretty much everybody on the panel has only really been a part of actually creating something in the scene in the past half decade. And you look at the gap, because you were in New York and then Johnny, like you moved here, like what you said, half, like can't remember, like 10 years ago?
6 years ago.
6 years ago, yeah. Yeah, so I'm like, before that, it was like nothing. Like you had the guys that stomped down doing their own thing. That was like Mercury, Snack, and those guys. And then before that was all the way.
Shout out to him though. I fuck with what he's doing.
Yo, the effing guys have been killing it from time. Like even
the
new Stealth Bomb. Like man, they put up numbers. I mean, no one went top 10 in Canada. It's like
I don't think anyone in Canada's putting up Mercury's numbers. I might be wrong in saying that. But I mean,
I think he's doing,
like rapper, like not mainstream. Like obviously you got Drake and whatever and Tory Lanez, but like mainstream, someone like Mercury. I think I just seen saying he got 500 million views on YouTube or some shit.
Yeah. Crazy. I'm like on
crazy
cross. But no, so the reason I say that is like I think you really see the change happen in these 5 years, right? Like you just said, like Johnny said, you haven't seen any artist be like, yeah, we packed a 600 person venue like in the past 10 years until these things started to pop up. So I think the more interesting part is going back to the original question, how do you get more people? It's continuing to grow. Like you gotta have the talent, you gotta have the work ethic to put it in to be like, yeah, this is the brand, this is the music, this is frankly the dope shit that you can expect at these shows and have people show up. And that's what it is at the end of the day. Because I'm curious to know what Darko's thoughts is too, because like he's from Abbotsford, just for like context sake. So you can see from the external views that
Vancouver started having a more bubbling energy around music than it arguably ever has in the past like 2 decades.
No, for sure. Just to wrap that up, like, SJ said, like coming from Abbotsford, because there's nothing to do out there, like me and the collective at the time, like we just wanted to put on shows because there was nothing going on. And the music scene out there is just like sort of like folk or indie, really. So it's like we wanted to be like the hub and like the center of like the hip hop and like R&B type category. So we were pretty much putting on like a show every month for like the first maybe like 2-3 years that we started, and the shows were being put on. So my radio station, my station manager, he turned his carport into like a stage. So we would just throw shows there. And it was like $5 at the door, and like we were packing out this little carport, like packing it out just because there was nothing else to do in like the city. And it's like, and then being able to take that sort of energy and shift it over to what we were doing in the Vancouver scene too. Like it's just dope to be able to like build that community and just like sort of just make dope shit. And exactly as Joe was saying, like in the last couple of years, just like how everyone is working in different fields, but all sort of towards the same goal. So I just think it's really dope.
You say you're from Abbotsford?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. Uncle God's from Abbotsford. You know Uncle God?
Yeah.
There's mad talent came with the valley right now. Like
this is what I'm saying.
Uncle,
Like
it's crazy.
When artists start popping as well from like just the whole of BC, not just Vancouver, you know what I'm saying? Like the outskirts, Abbotsford, what other places we got? Chilliwack.
Yeah.
From Chilliwack.
Bosby from Chilliwack.
Yeah,
exactly.
All those places, wherever, man. Nelson, BC, Victoria, like that's when it's going to be a real. We need to start connecting with everyone.
No, but it's crazy you say that because I think you're like just like even in a shorter time frame in the past like year and a half, like Eli's from the island, Boston obviously from Chilliwack, Knowns from Mission, Ankles from Abbotsford. Like all these guys are from Tri-Cities and outskirts of Vancouver. Like because it's such a magnet now, like you have guys posted up like Camo, Coulthard, Lozelle, like all these guys posted in Vancouver slash Surrey. Everyone's like coming over here now. Like you're seeing the magnetic ability of Vancouver and its talent attracting the rest of BC now too, right? So it's a sign of growth.
There's an amazing TED talk, and I forget who spoke, but they said people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And I think that's more important than ever, especially in today's social climate. For anyone who is a public figure of any kind to recognize that your responsibility is equal, if not more, heavy on the side of why you are doing it.
Okay, so during a pandemic, of course, as we are today, so the main question is how can art continue to foster community in the city during a pandemic? And it's mainly talking about live streaming. There's been a few live streams that have been going around, and it doesn't really seem like a very viable means of engagement, but also just like interaction between the audience and the artist. So is there a way to move forward with that? Is there a way to do it better? In your opinions, like what are some ways moving forward with that?
I'm going to look at the live stream expert here.
I would not call myself an expert on that. Live streaming is very daunting. A lot of people don't really know how to do it or how to really get started on doing that. So I think that's more of the barrier in terms of like artists getting more into it. I still think even though it may not translate directly to, people streaming your music more, but it's still helping you push your brand. I would consider it more of like a brand awareness platform as opposed to revenue driving right off the bat. Sorry, I just need to think on this a little bit more.
Through collaboration, with the fact that we can't have a lot of people in the space, but you could still you're still allowed to work, you're still allowed to collaborate. So I've been able to work on projects throughout this pandemic, and the collaboration is kind of like where I find most of the community I just like being able to work with people and create, maybe not creating events, but, you can still create in other mediums and other forms.
Like you're saying that live stream isn't working, but there are like a lot of new ways that things are happening. I've actually learned how to use OBS and include Instagram, so you can have a whole Zoom conversation on Instagram by using Yellow Duck. So people are using Instagram, just like looking into tech a little bit more, and so you could bring as many people as you want, just like this Zoom conversation could be held on Instagram, and people could be watching it live too. So, and people love the live too, just because it's in the moment, they're on the go, they're like buying groceries and they're just watching whatever's going on. So definitely the collaboration, finding the connections too, like you were saying about local curation, the artists that are really doing things in the city, like reaching out to them and saying, hey, how do you feel about this idea that I have? And like bouncing ideas back and forth, having a meeting before even doing it too, and just coming together on a creation of a new venture or idea.
Yeah, I think like one of the great things, I know we've talked a lot of shit about the government, but MUSICBC has put a lot of at least good funding into live streams for right now in the community. So I think that's definitely something artists and labels should tap into. And if they're not aware of, they should definitely hit up MUSICBC and try to get some funding for a live stream. And I think, just like, hopefully, as we were kind of saying before, like hopefully there's just more sensibility in people who live here. I feel like there is more about like your community and just helping those that are in need. And one of the things that are really getting hit right now is the live scene in BC. So, a lot of venues are really hurting in a lot of those type of jobs. So I think we just need to find a way to, give back to artists, and that funding's one way, but yeah, hopefully we can like put on more events where it directly goes to artists locally or ones who, we're kind of living off of touring and aren't able to right now. But yeah, I think it's also just tough because like everyone has like a lot of live streaming fatigue right now. So I think like, encouraging artists to still release music and collaborate a lot more. I think collaboration is pretty key in this time. Especially for artists when, when you're isolated, sometimes you're lacking creativity. So working with another artist can help a lot. Working with different people, because we kind of need like those human connections in times like these. So hopefully see more of that within the local community, and reach out to people who are like a little bit bigger than you too, right? Because now is the perfect time because they don't have as much to do, and they're probably a little bit hungry for doing more stuff. So yeah.
I was gonna say, I think it's also a slight double-edged sword, because actually on what you said earlier is that there isn't a lot of ways to monetize it. I've seen a lot of I think there was a recent project by Budweiser, it might have been, the Budweiser stage. Amazing production. One of the best productions I've seen in terms of quote unquote live stream. Flawlessly done, but no tickets sold, no nothing. It was just, here's Budweiser sponsoring these artists and giving them a pay cut. And that was it. And yes, it's a very good drive for an engagement. How much of that transfers for them in general, or for more local artists in Vancouver, is questionable, because, not to name drop any streams, but a couple of big festivals tried doing streams here. The numbers were below 200 eyes at the peak, which was really depressing to see.
I mean, you're competing with like streams from all over the world, where people from Canada can access from China if there's a stream going on there. So yeah, there's definitely, it really depends on what your motivation is and what you're willing to like sacrifice in order to build yourself. I think it goes back again to like building an infrastructure and building that foundation. Is like, not everything that you do is necessarily going to translate to like big bucks. And you have to do these little things when you're put in a situation where things are very different. We're living in like a very different landscape. So you're going to have to pivot, and you're going to have to make sacrifices where you didn't think you were going to have to, but they will help you. And if you allow it to, and if you really embrace it. So you just have to kind of lean into like just the change that we're having. And even like with TikTok, like it's a platform that people are using, and songs are becoming big on it because people are getting creative in the way that they're engaging with their fans. And the music isn't the primary driver of that platform. It's what the people are saying or doing or whatever they're doing. And it's because we're so attached right now to technology, because we're not really able to see a lot of people, there is a lot of fatigue in wanting to look at your screen. So the more fresh that you can keep things for yourself is the more you're going to be able to engage with your fans. But I think really managing your expectations on what you are used to getting from doing something and what you will be getting right now is really important.
Like, I don't think virtual will ever be a substitute for a live performance. I just think this time right now, like I mentioned before, we're all on the same boat. So use this time to just collaborate and make art, whatever that means to you, with other creatives. It sucks, but that is where my focus would be. Because live performances will come back eventually. They will. So just take advantage of the fact that everyone's kind of at home and not out and stuff, and just, you know, get creative and adapt. If you want to do live streams and stuff on the side, that's awesome, but that will never be a substitute for live performances.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we're all just collectively frustrated that it's not happening sooner. But I think that we can only replicate so much in terms of online experiences. And I think no one really knows the timeline of when things will kind of start looking normal again, or what we perceived to be the norm before COVID. And I don't think that, you know, we can just go about as if we can replicate that, because I don't think you can kind of make those experiences online or give people the same type of value online as you could before, from a live perspective. I mean, there's other ways to get your music out there and channels to engage with people, but I think on that point, yeah, you just can't replicate it.
People are complaining about live streaming and live streaming being not that great. Of course it's not. It's a fucking camera pointed at a band or at an artist that had a very different experience with you on stage. You can't recreate that. And yes, we need to acknowledge that we did that and we went, oh, okay. But now we have to move on.
I got something. I mean, like during the pandemic, like I think it's like the best time to build. But this is like the only time I think, like probably in the history of life, that like you and your favorite artist are like probably in the same situation. Like the listener and the artist, like they're both at home, right? So I think it's a good time for like the creators to even like kind of get personal with their audience and just talk to them now, like because they're finally at home doing nothing. Like I think it's just a great time to just like get in contact with your people and just check in on them, even, you know, how they're doing. Or maybe now that we can like turn the tables, and maybe as creators we can kind of see what is our audience up to, right? And then, you know, I think that's a good way to like listen to our audience, and then, you know, maybe build on that and then give them something that they want. I think this is the only time an artist can actually listen to their audience.
Yeah, I was gonna add to that, because like people are definitely, I mean, we are in modern times where people are already addicted to their screens. But right now, there's that much more people on their screens. Yes, you're competing with everything else that's digital now.
Dude, look at, like, remember Tory Lanez live stream?
Exactly, huge.
Or even 6ix9ine. Was there like 1 million people there or something? Like on someone's live stream. Like,
yeah, I think one of them was like a record too for like Instagram. It was like one of the biggest live stream.
And there was no music being played or nothing. You know, he was just talking to his people and just explaining his situation. But no, it was just crazy to see, because I don't think that would have ever happened ever.
The big question is, we're the entertainers.
Exactly.
We're here to give you comfort, not to blow our own horns. That's not our job. If that's your job, then do it by yourself, in your bathroom, by yourself. Like, that sounds wrong, but...
Definitely keeping that in the final video.
So, anyway, but your job is to provide someone a way to express their feelings that they couldn't find themselves. We've got to listen to what's needed. And people need the arts more than they ever had right now. Right, in this generation, it's so important for us to understand our place. And our place is to provide respite. And we've got to figure out how to do that.
On that note, it goes back to the first part of our question, where what are the other ways that we're seeing, like VR is a very strong example in creating a world curated by this artist that you can walk into. Even things like what's that game called everyone's playing on their phone? Fortnite.
Yeah.
Fortnite doing those concerts, incredible production value, all digital, nothing live. Still has great engagement, great, like, from what I can gather, like great turnover rate as well for creating not fans, but eyes from that show, quote unquote, / game into those artists. So what are other ways that we can do that? Because obviously that's a big multi-million-dollar project. What are ways that we can do that aside from VR or whatever else might have already been done / tried here? Like, what are some other options that we can maybe aim for or try out? Because like, we can try anything and have the idea stick to the wall and run with it later and create a new source of revenue. So it's a good time to try those ideas out. But what are some of those ideas that we can maybe put forth or see working right now in general, or that you might personally see working?
Whoa.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know. I was saying words, thinking out loud.
I think why Fortnite and all these other VR companies are so successful right now is because they're bringing back that element of experience to these digital events. So the difference between a VR event and a live stream is, like, a live stream, you're watching someone do something, whereas in VR, it's artificial, but you're experiencing an artificial reality around you.
Yeah.
And I think that all comes back to feeling that connection, whether it's, another character that you're seeing in a VR space, you're still having some sort of connection. So I think, in my opinion, like, having your artists have, whether it's like an Instagram live stream of them answering questions of their fans or having a conversation and having more things where it's more intimate and more deep, as opposed to like surface level, listen to my music, things like that. I think that will really help to kind of just, I don't really even know how to say it, but it would allow the fans to feel more engaged. Goes back to being engaged. So just, I don't know, pivoting from, I think you have to pivot a little bit from your music right now. As much as that's your product, this is your opportunity to show everything else that you can bring to the table.
100%.
I think it's, the way I look at it is there's multiple communities, right? Each artist has their own community. And so I think, live stream is just one, but there's a lot of ways to stay engaged with the communities and with the fan base. And, there's a lot of different things, like being on live, simply texting, simply DMing the fans, simply, if you're an artist and it's like, okay, I have this new demo, and you have a dedicated group of fans that really rock with you always, sending them the link ahead of time, even when it's a demo version. Not every artist, I know some artists that would be like totally for that, and some artists that would never, ever do that. But I think it's just maintaining that proximity and kind of communicating and kind of, sharing content or just even one-to-one conversations.
Music videos are good. I mean, I've always thought music videos are so important, but people making visual content for every song is important to me. I mean, it's not the personal connection that you're talking about, but just in terms of keeping people engaged, even if it's just a simple lyric video or whatever, I think people should keep making video content to accompany their audio releases, because that keeps people more engaged for sure. Look at what one of my buddies, Mercules, does before he drops any song. He goes on Facebook Live and different live platforms, like 10 minutes before he premieres the YouTube link. He gets like 5,000 people. He waits until he has like 5,000 people in his live, which is understandably a big number because he has a bigger following, but you can scale it. And he gets everyone in there, chats with them, gets people engaged. And when it's time to premiere the video, he sends everyone off excited about it and, feeling connected to the drop. And he asks them to share and comment and share with 5 of their friends. And, he often gives away prizes to people in the comments that he picks randomly. So I think he's a great example of someone who can really activate his fans on a drop by drop basis. And he does it pretty much every time. And he's able to rack up like a quick 40, 50,000 views in the first 12 hours with that initial blitz. And I think that's a great example of someone using tools to their advantage and just being himself and going on there and not acting cool. He's like, "What's up, guys?" Like, and it's as simple as that, but it works.
Yeah, I think that's a really good model that I feel like, yeah, exactly how you said, Jamie, that people should just scale and try to like emulate it the way that will like fit them and their brand. But yeah, no, it's a really good idea.
I mean, that will work with 50 people too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah, just if you don't have the bigger budgets, just do more intimate things. Like, you know, that's like you said, like it's more interactive. Like you can actually see everyone's comments, right? Like when you play a live show, you can't hear everyone talking, right? So, you know, do more like contests and things. Like I talked about this recently, like just, you know, you can during the live stream or like leading up to it, you can do more like contests and things where you're asking questions or like asking people to share, and then you can kind of reward them with a more like intimate show, like maybe like a, you know, small acoustic set or something where you're just doing like a Q&A, so you actually get to talk to the artist directly. You know, you can do a lot more, like, because it's harder to do those like bigger live shows like a Faded and try to get thousands of people in, like try to do more like intimate things for your like hardcore fans that will go a longer way.
Okay, so I had an idea based off of what's been said, like, and this also goes back to working with like the people in your own community. Like if you know people who do, because I know for a fact that like 3D design is making a comeback in like the design world. So it's like, and there's a lot of people who are into like 3D design or whether it's like graphic design or even just like illustrators. It's like there's a big thing. And I feel like if musicians could somehow work with them to even create content that is like totally different from like a regular music video where you're just taking a camera, you're going out to shoot, where it's like music videos that are designed by a certain artist. So it's like you're playing your music, but then you also have like a visual aspect that's different than just you in a car or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, or yeah, so I feel like an idea to that, like to answer your question, it's like just working with the people that are around you to try to come together to make something that is like visually pleasing and also one, an experience, but also two, I'm engaging as well. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I think something that I love that MONSTERCAT does is we have a lot of crossover within gaming. So we have our songs in Rocket League and Beat Saber and all these other games, and gaming is a form of experience for people. So you're connecting your music with something that not only broadens the people who are listening to your music, but also giving them that experience and that engagement that they're looking for, especially in a time where you can't really go out and do much else. So, I mean, it's looking outside of the music industry and seeing what other companies mirror your like your values and your interests and how you can pair them together. So I think that's really important.
I'll be honest, right now, the world outside us is so dark. I'm most attracted to the things that are joyous. I'm most attracted to, I love the idea of the collaboration. I love seeing two people collaborate that are unlikely. You know, I love when you have engagement where someone is literally so happy to be there, to be doing what they're doing. It's infectious. Joy is infectious. And I should not say that word right now. But it's true, because the darker things are, the more light we need.
Yeah.
And that goes for the weather, that goes for the pandemic, that goes for how we're feeling. And every person is different. And I think I would say that every single thing that has been said around this table is so valid and so important. And it's having all of those things available that are really important to us. Again, I keep saying the word respite, because right now you look outside and it's a bit bleak. So yeah, finding those things that work for you. And what your question was, how do you do more of that? Ask your friends what they need. If you're the creator, and I mean, with MONSTERCAT, they're going to ask their community what they need. You're asking the question. You're going to ask your audience what your audience needs right now. And then the joy for them comes in you doing it. And me being like, I asked for this and I got it. And now I'm a super fan because you heard me and I'm now special.
Right. That goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Goes a very long way. I think as creators, we sometimes do forget, like, maybe we should just ask them what they want.
Just ask more.
You
Just
know?
listen more.
Yeah.
Learn more. Read more.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have time.
I've been doing it on a personal level a lot. Like, I used to make just like hip hop trap beats and stuff, and then just recently I decided, like, fuck it. I just want to make like a happy, joyous song or whatever, and just went totally outside of my world, and it was an amazing feeling to like see.
I bet it was.
yeah.
Yeah.
To see how much people like really accepted it, and like, you know. But,
Damn,
yeah,
and it seems like they are.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
But that happened through me just saying, hey, what do you guys want? Like, you know, like, oh, can you do this? Like, sure, no problem.
And be okay with failing.
Yeah.
Be okay with fucking it up.
Yeah.
Because right now it's like, how much worse is it gonna get?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, people want to see people who are okay to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
I think
Exactly.
one thing we've learned from this year is to listen. Just in any aspect, like not even just in the music industry, is just to listen and see what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
And from that and from that learning, you will come out, whether you see it directly or not, a more open-minded and stronger person, honestly.
Okay, so moving on to the next question here. We'll start with you, Denise, on this one. This is a question from Alexis, and she asks, what is the best way to gain support from your city?
I'd say just be consistent. Like, if you're coming out consistently with like new, unique ideas, I'm sure like somebody will tell a friend to tell a friend that you're doing something that's worth rewatching or becoming part of. And definitely, like with the city, there's so many different little pockets too that, like, with the collaboration that we've been talking about, a lot of people have been working together on coming up with new ideas on how to, you know, best elevate the view of Vancouver as like something that's not what Toronto's doing or what people in the United States are doing too. So yeah, I'd definitely say, again, collaboration is where it would be at.
Yeah, just, I mean, you get what you put out, right? So, you know, the more you support other people's work, the more, you know, you get supported. It's just how it works with like any kind of grassroots kind of community thing. So, you know, like that's how you get support, is to like show up to people's things, participate in their like setup, tear down, volunteer, you know, like build like meaningful, like real connection with people. And people are starved for connection in Vancouver. You know, it's really not that, if you can throw an event where you can have like a space where people can get together and have like good connection with each other, people will always keep coming back, you know? And it's not about scale. Like people think, oh, like I gotta like, you know, in Vancouver, yeah, if you throw a show, like a big like a concert, you kind of need to have like about 300 tickets to break. That's kind of like the break-even point in Vancouver, just because rent is so expensive here. But then you can also not do shows that are that big. You can do shows in alternative spaces where maybe there's like 40 people or 30 people, and you can have very good and high quality kind of connections that you form with people. So I think it's also just like, it's not about metrics. It's not about numbers. It's not about how much money you make, how many people you get. It's about the quality of connections that you have. So if you can, if quality is, the quality of the relationships is at the forefront of what you do, you will continue to get support from people, because that's what people really, really crave for.
Mm-hmm. I can't even more wholeheartedly agree with that in any other form. It's like, at the end of the day, the thing we stress the most is community connection. Like every single person we work with, we always strive to have a good personal connection with before we ever work with them. Like our most recent full-on production was Street Dreams, and that was May of 2019. half the artists on the bill we had known for years, but we finally decided to work together for that one project because we thought, hey, now's the right time. You guys have put in the work. There's enough content for you to actually do a show in. Now let's move forward and have you in those shows. Like a really good example of that was Elijah Blonde, who frankly nobody really knew in the city. And we had first met him back in 2017, I want to say, at a random studio session we just happened to pop into. And I'm like, okay, the stuff you're doing is amazing. Let's talk. Like, let's keep in like contact. 2 years later, I'm like, hey, I have this show coming up. You want to rock it? I'm like, let's do it. And for context, he was living in Victoria at the time, so it was a bit of a barrier to get him here and make sure he was ready and all that. But then, like, again, right timing, making the right connections. I think beyond that, the only thing I would add is you are just going to keep refining the craft, especially when it comes to music. You got to put in the 10,000 hours. Like, when the quality of music shows, you won't have to worry about getting support. Like, by reaching out, it'll come to you organically.
I just have a question. Did you have any female artists on the bill for this event speaking?
That one, yeah, we had Farah on that bill. I don't think there's been a show where we haven't had a female, frankly.
She was the only one, though?
She was the only one, yeah.
Okay, that's an issue, too. You should probably add more.
But there was only 4 artists on. I mean, yeah, we definitely... It's a balancing act, too, because I can put it this way. There's so many female talent that we want to work with, but we also curate the shows sonically. Like, we didn't want to add in people for the sake of adding them in, right? If they all have a sonic sound that matches the concept of the show, then 100% we're going to put them in there. There's that too. Because I've been to shows where I see an artist, right? There was just a show that had Snotty Nose, excuse me. And then there was I'm trying to remember, it was like a folk artist. And it just did not make sense together in that show. And you could see the two crowds were conflicting. Like, you had people leaving and going in and out the venue too. So I think that's one people that organizers and promotional people forget, is that, again, going back to what I just said, it still has to be something, it has to be a dope experience at the end of the day, right? Like, you don't want to add in people for the sake of adding them in, because that also does them a disservice. I'd rather have people at the show who are now super fans of you, right?
That's a good point.
I mean, I feel like you have to give like the audience a bit more credit here, because I've definitely done shows where, had a rap show and then have like techno like after, and people fucking loved it too. So I feel like audience definitely have the opportunity for more like development, but also, maybe that like you just have to curate it in a way that is playful. But I do feel like the audience in Vancouver generally have a pretty open ear. In terms of like, because all my events, I'm always going through so many different genres like within one event, and that also provides an opportunity for audience development to expose people to new artists and new genres, and like for them to have opportunities to cross-pollinate different crowds.
100% agree, because that's why we still try to make it as diverse as possible, because also in context, you have to realize, this is speaking personally now, our events are also art-based and fashion-based too, right? So we always try to split the dichotomy of genres and styles across all those 3 mediums, and then across usually the 4 to 5 creatives who are in those platforms that we host to.
You got to put out quality. I don't think anybody's entitled to anything, but I think if you put in the work and you put out quality music, then you're naturally going to gain fans, like not only just in Vancouver, but like in general. Your goal is to build a genuine fan base. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if you have 50 real fans that didn't know who you are and they just like your music and become your fan, like feed that 50 people, like make merch and sell to those 50 people, like know who your audience is, and then cater towards them. I think you can't just like shoot someone to DM or like it's got to be natural. You got to have a real relationship connection with the people in your city and show them support to kind of get that back. But people need to be a bit patient. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. These things take time, especially in the creative realm in the music industry. It takes time to build a fan base and like that respect, you know what I mean? So I just feel like you have to believe in yourself if you put in that work and that time into the music, and hone your craft, people are gonna mess with you. And if you don't have ego, if you're a genuine dope human being, like it's gonna be easy to, for the lack of a better term, fuck with. You know? So.
No better. Girl, I should've known better. Should've been like, fuck that, and fuck the 4 letters. Burn it up, turn on the propellers. The way you bust that, you a whole treasure. Ooh, baby, so reckless. Nah, fuck that. I'm a go-getter. Little baby, go-getter.